current news podcast.
With Elu and Jesse.
Yes.
All right, welcome back, everyone. We're ready to jump into another deep dive. And today, things are getting a little heated as we unpack the firestorm erupting around North Carolina gubernatorial candidate Mark Robinson.
Definitely heated.
Yeah, a recent CNN report unearthed some, shall we say, colorful comments from Robinson's past, and the political fallout has been swift and, well, fascinating to watch.
It has.
Our focus today is really zeroing in on how other political players are reacting to this bombshell. We're talking about those who are scrambling to distance themselves, those staying conspicuously silent, and what this whole thing might mean for the larger political landscape.
Right.
So to set the stage, the CNN piece, and it's aptly titled, Deleted Tweets, Canceled Events, Erased Endorsements, How Republicans Are Fleeing from Mark Robinson. Well, it reveals a trove of inflammatory statements Robinson made online. We're talking over a decade ago, sure, but some of these comments are, well, a lot.
Yeah.
He calls himself a black Nazi at one point, and his views on slavery are, well, let's just say, deeply disturbing. Not exactly standard campaign rhetoric.
Not at all.
So how are fellow Republicans handling this sudden blast from Robinson's past?
It's been a mixed bag.
Yeah, the article details a mad dash, almost like a mass exodus of Republicans trying to distance themselves. And it seems everyone's got the same playbook, scrubbing their social media, deleting photos, you name it.
Right, because in politics, perception is everything. Endorsements, shared stages, those are more than just photo ops. They're currency. They signal alignment, shared values, and crucially, electability.
Right. So when someone like Governor Kemp, who initially endorsed Robinson, backpedals and pulls his endorsement, it's a really big deal.
Absolutely. And it goes beyond just Kemp. The article mentions a bunch of candidates following suit. Congressional hopeful Lori Buckout, state-level contenders like Dave Bolek and Lisa Stone Barnes, all frantically trying to erase any trace of association with Robinson.
It's like they're trying to pretend they were never in the same zip code as him.
Pretty much. It's damage control 101, trying to build that political firewall.
It's interesting you say firewall because it really feels like they're trying to contain this, prevent it from spreading and scorching their own campaigns.
Yeah.
And the most telling sign of how seriously they're taking this whole thing. The article highlights how even the Republican Governors Association, the RGA, is slamming on the brakes. They're not just yanking their endorsement, they're canceling fundraisers, they're pulling funding entirely from the North Carolina governor's race.
Yeah, that's major.
It is. The RGA doesn't make moves like that lightly.
No, they don't.
And to make matters even more interesting, even the NRA, and we all know they're not exactly known for shying away from controversy, they've quietly stopped running ads supporting Robinson.
Now that's telling. We're talking about the NRA, a group with deep roots, a powerful lobbying arm. Their silence speaks volumes. It suggests they recognize the potential damage, not just to Robinson, but to their own brand if they're seen aligning with him.
It's like they're saying, even for us, this is a bridge too far.
Right.
But here's where things get really interesting. Not everyone's running for the hills.
Right.
The article also points to some Republicans who, well, they seem hesitant to fully condemn Robinson. They're choosing their words very carefully, like they're tiptoeing around a minefield.
It's a delicate dance, isn't it?
It is. Take Senator Budd, for example. He endorsed Robinson last year, and when asked about the CNN piece, he acknowledged it was very disturbing, but
he didn't withdraw his support.
Exactly. He's still planning to vote for Robinson.
It highlights the tightrope these politicians are walking.
Yeah.
On the one hand, they have their own personal convictions, but on the other, there's the political calculus, the potential consequences of alienating certain voters.
Right, because let's face it, denouncing Robinson outright, that might cost Budd the support of a significant chunk of the Republican base, the ones drawn to Robinson's more, shall we say, unfiltered style.
Exactly, but fully embracing him.
Yeah.
That alienates moderate voters, independents, the folks you need to win a general election.
It's a tough spot to be in, for sure. And then you've got Representative Fox. The article mentions her Facebook page used to be plastered with photos of her and Robinson singing his praises. Now, crickets.
Strategic silence, a classic political maneuver.
So in a situation this charged, sometimes saying nothing is the least risky move.
Often it is. Because any statement could backfire, alienate one side or the other. By staying silent, Fox avoids taking a firm stance, hoping to weather the storm without alienating voters on either side of the issue.
But of course, the flip side is that silence can be interpreted as indifference, or even worse, a lack of courage to address a sensitive topic head-on.
Precisely. It's a gamble. And it's not just Fox, is it? Robinson himself has been noticeably absent from the conversation.
He has. According to the article, his campaign events page, which was previously jam-packed, wiped clean, no upcoming events, nothing.
Very telling. When a scandal like this hits, you usually see one of a few standard responses. A full-blown denial, a heartfelt apology, maybe an attempt to justify the comments by providing context, sometimes even a deflection tactic, trying to shift the focus elsewhere.
But we haven't seen any of that from Robinson.
Not yet. And by not directly addressing the CNN report, he's keeping the story alive, letting speculation and interpretation fill the void.
So, in a way, saying nothing is a response in itself.
Exactly. And it's important to remember, we live in a digital age. Those past comments, they're part of a permanent record. And voters might interpret this silence as guilt, arrogance, even a lack of transparency, all of which can be incredibly damaging to a candidate's credibility.
It's fascinating, isn't it? You've got this whole spectrum of reactions, some distancing themselves, others strategically silent, and the candidate at the center of it all, laying low. It's like a political thriller unfolding in real time.
It really is.
Yeah, and I think what's really striking here is that this whole situation, it feels like it's shining a light on these larger trends, these deeper tensions within the Republican Party itself.
Absolutely. Robinson's rise, at least part of it, stemmed from this very direct, some might even say, fiery rhetoric. It resonated with a good chunk of the electorate.
Right.
But this mass exodus we're seeing, this scramble to distance themselves, it really exposes the tightrope the party's walking, trying to balance these different factions, these different expectations within their own base.
Because you've got some voters who they love that unapologetic style, even if they don't agree with every single thing Robinson says.
Right. They might even view this whole thing as a witch hunt, a classic example of political correctness gone too far. But then you have moderate Republicans and those crucial independent voters, the ones you need to win a general election. They might see Robinson's past statements as, well, completely disqualifying.
It's a tough needle to thread, and this situation really just throws those tensions into stark relief. And it's especially interesting in a swing state like North Carolina, a state that's often seen as a microcosm of the national political scene.
Absolutely. This whole thing raises questions that go way beyond North Carolina, even beyond this election. How much weight do we give to past statements, especially ones made before someone was a public figure? How does that factor into our assessment of their character, their fitness for office? It's a complicated issue, especially in the age of the internet where everything's amplified, it's preserved online, there's no escaping it.
It really makes you think about how we process information these days, how we evaluate what's credible, what's relevant. And honestly, on a broader level, I think this situation forces us to confront the state of our political discourse in general.
Right, because when inflammatory rhetoric, when these personal attacks dominate the headlines, it's easy to lose sight of the actual policy discussions, the nuances, the things that are crucial to a functioning democracy. And I think the situation is a potent reminder of just how high the stakes are.
So let's take a step back and recap. We have a candidate facing serious scrutiny over past statements, a wave of Republicans doing everything they can to distance themselves, and others opting for, shall we say, more strategic silence.
It's quite a story.
It is, and it really highlights the complexities of politics today. It's a constant game of political maneuvering, of risk assessment, all unfolding against a backdrop of intense polarization. And as for Mark Robinson, is this a turning point for the Republican Party? Will this mass exodus of support ultimately help those distancing themselves, or will it backfire and energize Robinson's base even further? And what does this entire saga tell us about navigating the world of politics in an age of instant information, of constant scrutiny? These are just some of the questions we're left grappling with. As always, keep those critical thinking caps on, keep asking the tough questions, and never be afraid to dive deeper into the information out there. We'll see you next time for another deep dive.
Turn the dial to the daily news. Turn the dial to the daily news. Turn the dial to the daily news. Bringing voices, headlines, to choose. We turn the dial to the daily news.